Nicodemus here. On today's episode, I wanted it to be an easy question. What do you do when you can't let go of the past, whether it's like a business partner, a relationship? Like, how do you get out of your own way and listen to the Holy Spirit?
Yeah, it's obviously this is a big question for most people, whether they study the course or anyone who follows the path of listening to the Holy Spirit on the path of the Christ and what Jesus taught us. And I want to read some parts from the course, actually from the last video we did, the same section, and there's some really good overlap. I think the thing for us to understand is that in any given situation, we actually don't know what the best outcome is. Yeah, I've asked this question in trainings in my classes over the years, and I've asked it to thousands of people, and almost everyone raised their hand. And the question is, raise your hand if one of the worst things that ever happened to you turned out to be one of the best things. And almost invariably, every time, almost everyone in the class raised their hand. And the people that don't, I swear, either they don't hear the question, or it just maybe they haven't had trials and tribulations that turned out to be valuable for them, or maybe they didn't see it that way. But for most people, what they perceived in the situation as the worst thing that could happen turned out to be one of the best things. So what does that tell us about our ability to judge or assess a situation based on our own knowledge? Is that it's very limited. Our minds are not good at predicting the future or trying to figure out all these unlimited possibilities of what a situation is or what it means or where the value is for us in the situation. So what Jesus says in the course in chapter 14, section 11 is really powerful. This is the test of truth. And this line, it's italicized. One of the parts of the sentence I want to read, it says, yet the essential thing is learning that, and this is italicized, you do not know. Now just think about that for a moment. I don't know in any situation what it means, what the best outcome is, what my own best interest is in the situation. The ego tries to teach me that I know, but all that does is create more pain for me. It buries me deeper into separation. So one of the things we're learning is, and he talks about this frequently in the text, is to fire ourselves as our own teacher. That doesn't mean I'm the teacher or you find another teacher, not like that. We're all teachers and students here, but the Holy Spirit is the teacher. The Holy Spirit is the healer. The Holy Spirit is the interpreter. The Holy Spirit is the therapist. So, yet let's go back to yet the essential thing is learning that you do not know. Knowledge is power, and all power is of God. You who have tried to keep power for yourself have, quote, lost it. And he puts lost in quotes. We didn't really lose it, but when we try to keep power for ourselves and build our own image up to ourselves or the world or in someone else's eyes, we actually end up feeling more and more powerless. So he goes on, he says, you still had the power, but you have interposed so much between it and your awareness of it that you cannot use it. Everything you've taught yourself has made your power more and more obscure to you. You know not what it is, nor where. So everything we taught ourselves from the past about the world, about ourselves, about life, all of it, everything you taught yourself has made your power more and more obscure to you. It convinced us that we're in a separate world, separate from God, separate from each other, and it became a nightmare. Our life, the dream, it's the dream of separation is a nightmare. So he's everything you've taught yourself has made your power more and more obscure to you. You know not what it is nor where. You've made a semblance of power and a show of strength so pitiful that it must fail you. Like an older brother, Jesus is saying what we did to try to get power for ourselves has ultimately it has failed us. And it's a pitiful display. It's not like he's not beating us up over it, it's just showing us like children. It's almost like a child, if you have a child trying to parent themselves. Imagine a 4-year-old saying, like, I'll handle it from here. I know how to be an adult and I know how to live in the world. As a parent or a grandparent, we would laugh and just say, my child, you don't know what you're talking about. That semblance of strength and your show of strength, it's pitiful because it's not possible. It's not possible because a child what has to mature into adulthood to actually live in the world as an adult. So let's go on. It says, for power is not a seeming strength, and truth is beyond semblance of any kind. Yet all that stands between you and the power of God in you is but your learning of the false and of your attempts to undo the true. So we attempted to teach ourselves, undo the truth, and then teach ourselves what is false. That separation is real. That I'm this body born into the world, gonna die eventually someday, and that it's up to me to try to find my power for myself. I mean, if you look at all human beings, it's like when we're born, everyone's in its search of their power and their strength and to know themselves. It's just the ego taught us to look in all these insane places where we can never find it. It goes on, and he in later in this section, paragraph 6, he says, "Your part is very simple. You need only recognize that everything you learn you do not want." And he says, he goes on, he says, "Ask to be taught of the Holy Spirit, and do not use your experiences to confirm what you've learned. When your peace is threatened or disturbed in any way, say to yourself," and this is really ultimately when we say this to ourselves, how we hear the Holy Spirit. We say this to ourselves, "I do not know what anything, including this, means. And so I do not know how to respond to it, and I will not use my own past learning as the light to guide me now." You see, when we do that, we open up, we become an invitation for the Holy Spirit to teach us. But we have to fire ourselves as our own teacher first. He says in the text, Jesus says, "You who've learned amiss should not be your own teacher." Now you can imagine Helen, who was a clinical psychologist at Columbia, very brilliant, very intellectual, hearing this, saying you have to fire yourself as your own teacher, and that the whole start to become a student and listen to the Holy Spirit guide you. And it goes on, and it says, "Those who remember always that they know nothing and who have become willing to learn everything will learn it. But whenever they trust themselves, they will not learn." It's very important here. And he goes on, he says, "They destroy their motivation for learning by thinking they already know." So think that. So don't think you understand anything until you pass the test of perfect peace. For peace and understanding go together and can never be found alone. So ultimately, the test is of perfect peace. There's a situation when I think of the person or the situation, do I feel that perfect peace? If I don't, if I feel static, if I feel fear, if I feel anger or conflict, then I didn't learn of the Holy Spirit. I learned of the ego. And that's where we get to turn away from what we think we know about everything and everyone, and actually open our hearts, open our minds up in the understanding that I don't know, I can be shown. So that it's an actual a humility that we are really owning up to and admitting that we don't know what anything means. So how can I judge any situation? And to the extent that I do, I can't hear the Holy Spirit. But when I'm willing to let go of the meaning that I bring to everything and how I think everything should look and how everyone else should be and how the world should be, when I let go of all of that, the Holy Spirit can now speak to me and teach me and communicate to me how to find perfect peace in this situation and ultimately how to find perfect peace in all situations. So for your life, see if you could start to withdraw what you've assigned everything to be and mean and how everything should look and how everyone should act and the way the world should be. See if you could step back from that and open up to in not knowing that you can now be taught and that ultimately the knowledge of our true nature and reality and ultimately eternity can dawn on our minds. But first we need to start in our everyday life. So where are those situations that you're judging and that you want it to be different and resistant to the way it is? Can you pull back and let go of that and let the Holy Spirit teach you what it should be? So ultimately you find perfect peace.